Imagine walking into a doctor's office, carrying an exhaustion that sleep never fixes. The doctor says 4 words that explain everything. It's a chemical imbalance. Too little serotonin. A simple pill will top it back up. It is a comforting and a clean explanation. This visualization compares serotonin levels across massive study populations. When researchers pooled the largest, highest quality studies ever conducted, they found no consistent evidence linking depression to low serotonin. These 2 curves, representing people who are depressed and people who aren't, form an almost perfect overlap. There is no reliable difference between them. Scientists even ran experiments where they deliberately lowered serotonin levels in healthy volunteers, expecting their mood to plummet. The drop never came. The volunteers did not reliably become depressed. The idea printed on millions of medical pamphlets simply did not hold up under rigorous testing. Yet 85 to 90% of the public still believes depression is a problem of brain chemistry gone low. The gap between that belief and modern evidence is a massive disconnect in modern medicine. To understand what is actually happening, we must look past the chemistry to a physical cascade. It starts with something modern and relentless: chronic stress. Your body is equipped with an emergency system called the HPA axis. When you face an immediate threat, this system signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol. In short bursts, cortisol is brilliant. It wakes you up, sharpens your focus, and helps you survive. But modern stress is quieter. It's an inbox that never empties, a sick parent, and bills that don't add up. Your HPA axis cannot tell the difference between a predator and a deadline that won't quit. It just keeps firing. A healthy stress system works like a thermostat. When cortisol rises high enough, the brain senses it and shuts the system down. But under relentless pressure, the sensors that act as brakes wear down. Like an overloaded smoke alarm, the thermostat jams in the on position. With the off switch broken, cortisol keeps pouring out. The brain marinates in a stress hormone designed only for short emergencies. Floods of cortisol are harsh on brain tissue. The hippocampus, your brain's librarian, pays the heaviest price. It files memories and helps you tell the difference between a real threat and a false alarm. It is also exquisitely sensitive to cortisol. As shown in this diagram, chronic cortisol causes the production of fresh neurons to slow to a trickle. Then, the tiny tree-like branches of existing neurons, the dendrites, retract and thin out. With fewer branches, the brain becomes quieter and less flexible. This damage reshapes the emotional circuit. The prefrontal cortex, handling logic and control, weakens. Meanwhile, the amygdala, the brain's alarm bell, becomes overactive. When your brakes wear thin and your alarm is amplified, your emotional machinery is physically different. This is a structural fingerprint that can be measured on an MRI. The immune system plays a role here as well. Chronic stress causes the body to ramp up inflammatory cytokines, the molecules that flood your system when you have the flu. These molecules drift into the brain, dampening mood. Think about the way you feel when you are truly sick. You lose your appetite, you withdraw from people, and you feel flat and foggy. Doctors call this sickness behavior. In many people with depression, these same inflammatory markers run high. This entire cascade zeroes in on a molecule called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer. It is the growth signal that keeps neurons alive and lets your brain rewire itself in response to experience. This chart shows how stress and inflammation drive BDNF levels down. In clinical depression, this vital fertilizer dries up. Without it, the brain loses its capacity to grow new connections or repair old ones. When neuroplasticity stalls, the whole system becomes rigid. The brain becomes stuck, unable to rewire its way out of a negative state. Think about ordinary sadness. It's a passing weather system. Your stress hormones rise during a loss, but they eventually return to baseline, leaving no trace on the tissue. Clinical depression is a state your brain gets physically stuck in. The growth signals stay suppressed, the inflammation lingers, and the hippocampus actually shrinks. That physical change is what separates a temporary feeling from an illness. This biological freeze explains why antidepressants take weeks, sometimes months, to help. This visualization shows that while serotonin spikes within hours, the mood indicator stays flat. Lifting the mood lies on what happens slowly over the following weeks. BDNF levels begin to climb and connections regrow. The medication triggers a slow, downstream increase in BDNF production eventually rebuilding physical structure. When researchers infused BDNF directly into the brains of animals, they saw recovery that lasted long after the molecule itself had disappeared. It didn't just mask a symptom, it kickstarted a wave of physical repair. Because the hippocampus can grow new neurons throughout your entire life, this stress injury is reversible. The brain that was reshaped by stress can be reshaped by recovery. Quality sleep, exercise, and therapy actively raise BDNF and help the brain practice new patterns. Recovery is a construction project. Brick by brick, the brain begins to put itself back together. Depression is a stress-injured brain that has temporarily lost its ability to change. But the machinery for that rebuild was inside you the entire time, just waiting for the conditions to change. That is how your biology actually works.